Mike, what about you? Your thoughts in Singapore on both teacher development and then the teacher autonomy in going forward with experiential learning?
Teacher development.
Yeah.
Let's start with that. First, it's harder to get into the Faculty of Education in Singapore. We have only one major institute, than the law school or the medicine school, right? If you are a student graduating from grade 12, you apply to medicine school or the law school, but for the National Institute of Education, you need to apply to the Ministry of Education and the National Institute of Education. And both the Ministry and the National Institute must agree that you can get in. Because the day you get in, you're employed by the Ministry of Education, right? So it's a different concept. Because of the investment in preparing teachers to get into school, every postgraduate student in the Faculty of Education, postgraduate diploma student, or the BA, BEd students who get into NIE, their education is paid for, right? That's one. They get a stipend so that they don't lose out from their cohort, right? So preparation and selection is very tight. Probably 1 out of 8 will get in, right? So it's competitive, and we want to keep it that way because we recruit from the top third of the cohort, right? So they go through for the postgraduate diploma in education, it's a 16-month program, 2 attachments to schools, and they have service learning concepts. So teachers themselves, when they are going student teachers undergoing training, they go through experiential learning themselves, service learning, global learning. So there are all these components because we have expanded our teacher education in terms of the postgraduate diploma to a 16-month program to allow for this. And even before getting into the National Institute of Education, they are hired as contract teachers to see whether at the end of the day they can cut it. You know, a lot of us think that we can teach, but we can't. And it's not, while I can say pedagogical skills are trainable, your ability to build rapport with students is slightly different, right? If you have it, you have it. If you don't, too bad. So that allows us to test the student teachers before they get into NIE. So that program is done. PD is not an issue because I think our teachers are PD fatigued. There's just a lot available, and teachers don't have time to go, right? The schools will provide in-service training. Teachers themselves can choose. But what's interesting is this idea that we have started to implement in the last 4 or 5 years is this teacher work attachment. Okay, teachers can get 3 weeks off, 10 weeks off, and go attach themselves to an industry, a company, whatever. Just go learn. Okay, I think this is critical because let me just be very frank. As teachers, we don't know everything, right? We must accept this bit because most of us got from school into school, back into school, right? Working world has changed quite a bit. My God, you step out. Our classrooms remain about the same 20 years ago or till now, right? Work outside has changed. So we need to know what's outside and then bring that into the classroom because classroom is a microcosm of what's happening out there, right? And drag our students to that because that's where our students are going. So we learn from the industry. Right, these attachments, work attachments, sabbaticals, this 10-week professional, where teachers after 10 years in service, they can get 10-week sabbatical and they can plan their sabbatical, and it's fully paid for. Right, so I think these things help our teachers to keep current of what's in the industry, to know what's happening, and bring that back. Okay, we are pedagogical experts, no doubt about it. Okay, we know how to teach, we know what kids need to learn in terms of the core competencies. Okay, but the world is also changing, so we must know that bit. I think we are trying to bring that closer. The applied learning taught us many things because it showed us that many of our teachers may not know what's happening in the industry also, right? So this teacher work attachment really helps. It's a challenge. That means we need more teachers, but Singapore being very small, our citizen population is only 3.2 million. The total population is 6 million. So half of people in Singapore are not citizens, right? But in Singapore, education is public education, and we hire only Singaporeans. You know, it's a fundamental national thing that we have. So it's a challenge in terms of manpower, needing that kind of manpower at that quality to be in schools, right? Yeah.
That's fascinating, the work attachment. I
Yeah.
hadn't heard of that. And so we did a visit to Singapore some years ago, and it was fascinating. Went to NIE.
Yeah.
And it is really important for Americans. And we get, our politicians will say, look at our scores compared to Ontario, Hong Kong, Singapore. And, you know, it's really important to think about, like, you guys do such a good job of predicting how many math teachers you're going to need in a few years, and bringing in that many or so into training. And then the devotion to really strong pre-professional training is really impressive. So